How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be showing you how I scan my film, both 35 and 120. Today I'm going to be scanning 120 film, but same process applies for 35 millimeter. Now, if I sound a little stuffy, I don't got COVID. It's just a small little cold I just got. So this is the roll of film that we are going to be scanning today. I've already cut it because I already tried recording this video a while back, but for some reason I was just completely just dead during that video. So I'm remaking it, but I did already cut the film. Basically, the first step is when you get it back from the lab, if a lab developed it for you, they're gonna give it to you like this and wrapped. And I cut it into 3 squares because that is the size of my archival sleeves. 3 squares is what fits in one row for the archival sleeves I have for 120. And then when it comes to 35 millimeter, I cut the strips into 6 squares, and 1 roll fits into my 1 archival sleeve. I'll probably eventually do a video on how I archive, but that's why I cut it. That's the first step. Now, I currently scan with an Epson V550 flatbed scanner. I say currently because this process of scanning film is always changing for me. This is what I'm currently using. And I scan those pictures and over to my MacBook. It's that new M1 MacBook Pro. It is pretty amazing. I'm still in the process of changing my entire workflow over to the MacBook, which is why I still have the desktop set up, but that's a topic for another day. On here, I use the native Epson Scan software, and I use that just because all I need to do is scan the actual negative, because then I take that negative into Lightroom and use NegativeLab Pro to convert it. So let's go ahead and scan the film. Now that we are over here with the scanner, the next step would be to actually mount the film onto the flatbed scanner. I do use gloves. These are cloth gloves, just so I don't get any fingerprint on the negative. That one's up to you if you just want to be a little living life on the edge and not use gloves. By all means, go ahead. But I'm a little bit on the safe side and use gloves. I personally do mount the negatives onto the actual glass of the scanner. That leads to 2 things. 1, you can scan the film border along with the actual picture, like the actual picture you took. And 2, it could cause Newton rings. I'll show you how to try and avoid those. Now, to avoid Newton rings, I have 2 tips for you. The first being, when you get your film back, do your best to try and flatten it before you even try scanning it. So whether that's putting a book on it when you get it back or any other flattening method you have, you can do that and get them as flat as you can. Like, these are actually pretty flat negatives. You can do that, and that's going to help a lot when scanning to not get any Newton rings. The second tip is, if you do get it back and you don't want to flatten it out but it's still curled a little bit, let's say it's curled this way. So let's say it's curled this way with the hump on top. This could be either the emulsion side or the non-emulsion side. It's usually the non-emulsion side that is on top if it is curled. I think that's how it usually goes. And but basically, whatever side is curled up, that's the side you want on top. Because when you tape it down to the glass, there's less chance of it touching the glass if you have the curve on top versus if you tape it down like this. Now, you may need to flip it in post if you do scan it emulsion side down, because then you're scanning the inverted image. So it is an extra step, but it does help reduce the amount of Newton rings in your pictures, in your scans. So I've now taped down the negatives here. If you don't want to flip in post and you don't really think Newton rings are going to be an issue, go ahead and put emulsion side up and the image facing down, and that way you'll get, when you scan, you'll get a right side facing image. Now, an interesting thing about at least the Epson V550, probably most scanners as well, do not cover the initial like ½ inch here. If you do, you're going to get weird color casts on your negative. So just keep that area clear. There's nothing here, not even the tape, and it should be fine. Also, if you are scanning 35, you can actually scan 2 rows of 35. You just will have to use more tape and be a little bit more careful of how you align it to the edge of your mask here. But 2 rows of 35 does work. So now that the negatives are loaded into the scanner, we can go ahead and open up Epson Scan 2 software. So over here, we have settings that you can change. If you are not seeing what I'm seeing here, you want to make sure that you are in photo mode first of all. All right, I'm back. I had a little errand to run, but I'm back. Let's go ahead and continue scanning. So, as I was explaining before, this is Epson Scan 2.0. Your document source, make sure it's transparency unit. Document type depends on what you're scanning. So I'm scanning a negative, but like I said, I'm only scanning the negative and converting it in NegativeLab Pro in Lightroom. So I'm actually going to be scanning the positive side of it, the positive image of it, sorry. And 48-bit color gives you the best color. For medium format, I go with 32 dpi. For 35mm, I go with 24 dpi. Scanning quality, of course, high. And if you go ahead and hit preview, it's going to load in your thumbnails on this side. And from here, you can choose which images you want to scan. We're going to rotate it, and we're going to delete this marquee. And I'm going to select one of the images. I'm going to make sure it has, I want to include the borders. And as long as there's a good amount of area around it, I'm just going to go ahead and hit this one, which will copy, or which will make a copy of that same mask. And I'm just going to drag it over to this one, and it should theoretically fit perfectly. And we're going to select the last one. Cool. Now that we have all 3 selected, we're going to go ahead and make sure this is clicked, so that way it selects all of the images that we have selected, and then we're just going to go ahead and hit scan. Alright, once it has finished scanning, you can go ahead and preview those scans. As you can see here, I made a double exposure on accident, but it's fine. We can go ahead and move these over to Lightroom now. Make sure when you're scanning, you know where they're scanning to, so that way you can find them, and either if you want to keep them in that folder or put them in a new folder. And we're going to go ahead and drag them on over to Lightroom. Now, once they are in Lightroom, we're going to go to the Develop panel, and as you see, I don't have to flip it horizontally because I did scan emulsion side up. But obviously we will still have to convert it. First step for when you're using NegativeLab Pro, there is a free trial if you want to download it. It's a very good software. I enjoy using it very much. I get good results out of it. I will put a link down in the description if you want to download it. I am not affiliated with the one guy because it was one guy who created it. But if you want to support him, the link will be down there. We're just going to go ahead and crop in to just the image, and then we're going to bring up the actual NegativeLab Pro here. It was a TIFF scan from a flatbed scanner, and we're going to go obviously to black and white because this is black and white, but you can, if it was color, you could go basic, frontier, and Noritsu. Those are other scanner profiles, and we're just going to go ahead and convert. Alright, so once it has been converted, now you have your picture. The film I shot this on was Ilford Ortho 50, I think. I think that's what it was. But it's also a film Forgot the type of the film, but it's, if there's red in the picture, it makes it much darker, deeper of a black. So you'll see here these pillars or whatever you want to call them were red in real life, so that's why they are actually pretty dark. And that right there is just a quick little edit I did on this really quick. We're just going to go ahead and hit apply, and that is our converted image. If we want to convert the rest, first we are obviously going to have to crop in just like the first one. And with the latest update to NegativeLab Pro, you can actually select multiple images and convert them at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the two we haven't converted yet and convert those at the same time. When you are selecting multiple, the actual advantage to that is you can copy your edits from one picture to the other. You could always convert multiple images at once, but you couldn't really copy your settings over, so that's what we're going to do. So I did the basic conversion right there, but if I want to apply the settings I already did for the other picture, just so that there's, you know, that they match, I'm going to also select that one, that original one, bring it up again, go to that image, and then we're going to go ahead and hit sync settings and apply, and now those same settings are on all three pictures. And would you look at that, that is also a double exposure. Once they are converted, you can go ahead and uncrop them, so that way you can bring that film border back, and now you have your converted image with the film border around it, and that actually looks pretty nice. I like it. So that was a quick rundown on how I go from scanning to converting the negative so that way I can post it. It was a quick rundown on the editing side of things, just because there's a lot more that goes into editing, especially if it was colored film, which is why it's scanned black and white today, just so it could be quicker, so I could show you the scanning conversion process, which is what this video was about. Maybe I will eventually show you guys how I edit my pictures, but for now this was just a scan and conversion so that you have pictures. If I did forget to mention anything, I probably annotated it. But yeah, those are the steps. Cut your negatives, clean and wipe down your negatives and your flatbed scanner, tape them down. There's an optional step to flatten them if you so desire. Then I just used Epson Scan 2, just a quick scan of the actual negative, not a positive version of it, because then I take it into Lightroom and convert it to a positive image with NegativeLab Pro. So that is it. That is how I scan and convert my images. If I forgot anything, or if you have any questions or anything, please let me know down in the comment section, and I will get back to you. But with that being said, I hope you have a great day, and let's roll.